Good morning everyone. Today we are going to see Operating System Unit 3 Session 2. In the previous session we have studied the concept inter-process communication and various methods of message passing and shared memory. And in today's topic we are going to see some other concepts which we use to communicate between two processes. And first concept we'll see pipes. So using these pipes, that is especially the parent process sends the messages to the child process through these pipes. So whenever the parent processes are created, it also creates the anonymous pipes through which it can send the messages to child processes, where the messages can be exchanged between these two processes, send and receive, allowing two processes to communicate. So there are ordinary pipes, cannot be accessed from outside the process that created it. So it should be only parent-child processes, then only they can access it. Typically, a parent process creates a pipe and uses it to communicate with the child process that is created. There is another type, named pipes, can be accessed without a parent-child relationship. That means it is not necessary that the processes must be only parent and child. It can be any other processes. Another definition is a set of processes changed by their standard streams so that the output of each process feeds directly as input to the next one. So these pipes are like input and output streams through which the messages are going to send. So these streams accept the input and sends the output through these pipes. So these are streams through which the messages will be sent and received from parent to child process. Each connection is implemented by an anonymous pipe. Another diagram, messages and pipes compared. So if you see the message passing concept which we have studied in the previous session. So the messages were sent and the messages were, this was the message queue where the message was sent to from one process to another process, and it was of fixed size. So if the message queue is full, then you may not able to send and receive the messages. So the another concept is used, that is pipe buffer. So through pipe buffer, reading and writing is done in any sizes. That means the input and output, accepting the input, sending the output, these all things, that is read and write. Named pipes are more powerful than ordinary pipes. Communication is bidirectional here. So communication is going to happen from both sides. Okay, they can send and receive, read and write. No parent-child relationship is necessary. It can be any processes. Several processes can use the name pipe for communication, provide on both Unix and Windows systems. So it can be used in both Unix and Windows systems. Next we'll see client-server communication. In that again we are going to say some concepts, sockets, remote procedure calls and remote method invocation. So only the definition, introduction part we'll see exactly what are these. So sockets we use for communication between client and server. So to communicate between client and server, there must be first the connection must be set up between client and server. So this connection is set up with the help of the sockets. So sockets are used to set up the connection between client and server, and once the connection is set up, they can able to send and receive the messages from client and server. Definition: a socket is one endpoint of two-way communication link between two programs running on a network. Socket is bound to a port number. So when you are using the socket number, it has to be used with the port number. The socket has to be used with the port number. It can identify the application that is destined sent to on the client side. If the connection is accepted, a socket is successfully created. See, and the client can use the socket to communicate with the server. The client and server can now communicate by writing to or reading from their sockets. So for writing and reading, we from client to server, we need to use the sockets. So this is how, this is the server and port number. So to communicate to communicate from server to socket, from server to client, we need to use the sockets, and this port numbers is necessary for which server and which client they are communicating. So port numbers are used to identify the clients and servers. So the client sends the request to the server and the server accepts it if it is not busy. Once the connection is set up, they can send the messages from client to server. So these sockets are going to use IP address and port numbers. So this is a IP address and this is a port number. And from this we'll understand for which host, for which IP address the client has to be connected to the server. So these are going to act very important. So refers on host. See, communication between consists between a pair of sockets. So whenever there is a communication between client and server, the sockets are going to communicate. See, a pair of sockets with IP address and a host port number. See, the sockets are going to communicate with the addresses so that the sockets, each unique socket we can identify. Next concept is remote procedure calls. So remote procedure call is used for communication between two processes, that is client and server. So in this concept, it works on system calls or the function calls. So whenever the client wants to set up the connection with the server, then system call is sent or the function call is sent from client to server. So remote procedure call is an inter-process communication technique that is used for client server based application. It is also known as subroutine call or a function call. A client has a request message that the remote procedure call translates and sends to the server. So the request message will be sent to the server by translating it in a form of system call or a function call. The client is blocked while the server is processing the call and only resumed execution after the server is finished. So the client will be blocked until the server accepts it, reads it and set up the connection. Once the connection is set up between the two processes, that is client and server, then they can send the messages. See, this is the diagram. This is the client and this is the server process. So the servers are waiting for request here and the client wants to set up the connection. So it sends the function call or subroutine call to the server. Then the receive request and start procedure execution, means it is going to start its process. Then still here client will be blocked here. It is waiting for reply from the server and then reply will be sent from server to client, resume execution, and then reply messages. Then it can start the communication. It can send the messages. Okay, what request it can send and all. So this is how the communication between two processes, client and server, happens with the function call or subroutine call, and we call it as remote procedure call. Next concept is remote method invocation, RMI. So remote method invocation is an API. It is an application program interface which allows an object to invoke a method on an object that exists in another address space, which could be on the same machine or on a remote machine. So this concept works on an object. It is on an interface through which it will allow to invoke one object to connect with the another object, whether it is on a same machine or on a remote machine. The communication between client and server is handled by using two intermediate objects, stub, which is at client side, and skeleton object, which is on server side. So this is how they communicate from the client side to the server side. So communication happens. So this is the functions and these are the objects. So this is how they communicate with the help of the stubs. Stubs maintains the outgoing and incoming. So this is like sending and this is like receiving stub. So stub will be having that what is sending, what is receiving. So it is send the method and it will skeleton will receive it on the server side, and the object will be invoked whatever is requested, and the response will be given back. Like this way these communicate with the help of the objects. So in today's session we have studied how to communicate between two processes using various concepts, whether it is a pipe or client server communication, using sockets or remote procedure call or remote method invocation. In the next topic we'll see some new concept. Thank you.